Hey guys, you're trying fly fishing, and today we're going to be tying a very cool, unique pattern. It's called the Sound Searcher. It's a variation on a gurgler with a couple of key differences. It's used extensively throughout the Pacific Northwest for sea run cutties, but it's a good fly for below dams. It looks very much like a wounded baitfish. We're going to get started on it right now. So in the vise today, I have a Gamakatsu SC15 and a 1/0. Again, this is a saltwater pattern. If you're going to use it in freshwater, use a freshwater hook. If you're going to use it in salt, use a saltwater hook. So the first thing I'm going to do is just start my thread. And for thread today, I'm going to use uni mono. I like to use mono when I am tying saltwater flies. It's my preference. You can also use, a white 140 denier thread. So I'm just going to get this going. Create a nice little thread base. Bring it all the way back to the bend of the hook here. And then because mono is slippery, I'm just going to do it again. Then we'll get rid of our little tag, and then we'll tie in our tail here. So for a tail, I'm going to use, and you can use a number of different materials, but I have hairline ripple ice fiber and UV pearl. This works well for me. So we're just going to take a chunk of this, and it's pretty messy. So I'll grab it. I'll kind of taper it out in my hands a little bit. You don't really have to do that, but I like to do it. And I'm just going to take a measurement, and I like it to be roughly a little bit longer, shank it a half length here. We'll just do that. And of course, I'm going to double this over. So let's actually cover this up. Create a little bit of bulk on the shank here. It'll help us in a bit. And we'll pull this back and pull it over. And the nice thing with this ripple ice hair, and you'll see I'll do it in a sec here, is once we get it here, we can kind of use our hands to break up and kind of get rid of this. And if we have extra length, it's real good to come in here and you can just break it off with your hands. So one of the key differences here, like I said, between this and a gurgler is the shape of the foam we're going to use. We have like a little baitfish shape, which is super fun. You can cut these however you like to match your baitfish. There are baitfish cutters available through River Road, but I just freehanded this one. And you can also just kind of make, a template and cut a bunch of these. So I'm actually using white Evazote foam. You can use Evazote or, just your standard hairline 2mm foam will work as well. So we get this tied on. Tight wraps there, but not too tight so we don't cut it. Let's take a look at the bottom. Look at our profile. We got our nice little tail there with some flash underneath. So that's perfect. So I'm going to advance my thread, and then I'm going to create a quick, easy little dubbing loop. You could also use a brush for this, but just to keep this simple, easy, and quick, we're going to use the same material for the tail and the body. And I've just grabbed a bunch of it here in my hand. And then I will get my dubbing loop going, and we'll wrap this. So just create our dubbing loop, double it over 3 inches maybe. 1, 2, oops, slipped. So one negative thing with mono thread is it is slippery. So let's redo that. So get our 2-inch, 3-inch little loop, 1, 2, and then around. I like to go around twice, and then we'll just advance our thread up. So with the mono thread, you kind of got to play a little bit of a game of getting your dubbing in, getting your dubbing twister on, and then tightening up that dubbing loop. And once it's tight, it will stay. If you use a standard thread, you can put wax on it, and it can be a little bit stickier. So I'm just going to get this going. And we got our little dubbing loop. I'm just going to give it a good spin. And then pull tight. And you'll see that rope right up. So once we have our little rope here, I'm just going to come in with a brush of some sort. This is a Velcro brush. And just pick this out. And we may lose a little bit of fiber, a little bit of this dubbing, but we want it to be nice and thin. We want to be able to see our thread almost underneath all this dubbing. And then we'll pull it to one side here. So we pulled this back, and now we're just going to wrap this forward. So nice touching turns. This is going to be a dense fly, pulling that fiber back, dubbing, wrap, and back, and back. And there we go. We're getting close to the eye here. I like to leave a little bit of room so we don't crowd it too much. Just come in here and tie that off. Oops. I think I had my hook fully seated. Just a couple of wraps over it, a couple of wraps in front, and just get rid of that extra material. The next thing we're going to do is just brush this out again. Kind of get rid of anything that's loose or tied down. All right, and we'll just brush it to the sides and down, back, down. And that looks pretty good to me. So we'll just pull our head over here, our back, right behind our hook eye. Tie that off nice and tight. And we'll throw a nice little whip finish underneath. Get rid of our tag. And then from here, we can kind of adjust how we want our head to look. We don't want it too long because it'll be hard to cast. So I'm going to come in here and actually cut it square and then trim kind of my little head shape just by taking the corners off. And honestly, that's bait fishy enough for me. So it looks like we got some extra long fibers. We can come in here and kind of break them to the length we need. Brush them back. All right. And another key feature of this fly is putting an eye right down in here. So for an eye, I have fish skull living eye in the earth color. I like to use a bigger eye than you think is necessary. It just adds a good trigger point. So just get that on there. Press it down. Okay, and then we're just going to coat this in UV. So I have Loon fly finish and a UV thin. So we're going to come in here and get it all around this little eye. A little bit over, a little bit under, but mostly around the edges here. We'll let it seep around. So once we hit that with our light, it's pretty much it. You can trim these to whatever shape you like. Like I said, you can fish it like a gurgler, kind of find some fish, find some moving fish, or, you know, another great way to fish this is right under a dam where a lot of bait fish get stunned, and big fish know that and they'll hang out. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.